I have a fellow retiree with me today, law enforcement officer with an incredible career. We're going to talk about that. And then, we're going to talk about a lot of things today. And that's why I wanted to bring this guest in because uh, we have so much happening now as we move into 2025 with American law enforcement, with the change of tide in this country. And I also want people to know that, law enforcement officers are so involved in our communities. And I don't think we talk about that enough either. So we got a lot to talk about. Dave Miklos, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Betsy. I really appreciate being here.
So let's talk first and foremost. Why'd you become a cop, Dave?
Well, I went to college and got a degree in none other than recreation administration, of all things. And I worked in that career for about 11 years. When I moved to North Los Angeles County and was working for a city there, running recreation programs. And a lot of our constituents and people that were participating were LA County deputy sheriffs. Sports programs, they were in our adult sports and kids sports and things like that. And over a few years of them getting to know me and vice versa, they started heavily recruiting me to say, you should think about becoming a deputy sheriff. I was talking in the late 80s, probably 1987. And I kind of laughed it off and never even thought about it. I had a different career in my mind. I'm married for 10 years. I had a 6-year-old son, but they kind of kept pushing me about it. And I thought, well, let me just actually go on a ride along, see what that's all about. And, after that first ride along, something just went off in my heart and my brain, thinking, wow, this is really something where you can have a positive influence on your community and a positive influence on other people. And just so exciting because it's something different every day. So I really had a strong impression from the people that I was just going on these ride alongs with. And so I finally decided, after I talked to my wife about it, and she was all for it, that I was going to become a deputy sheriff for Los Angeles County. So I started to find out, back in those days, it was a little more difficult to find out what do I have to do, but I found out what those things were. I was 32 years old already, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to become the most physically fit I could possibly get and find everything I can about how to become a deputy sheriff. And the academy turned out to be quite exciting and super fun. I had just a tremendous career for 28 years. And after right about the time I retired, I became employed by Rio Hondo College Police Academy. So I'm still working part-time at a police academy in Whittier, California, because I really love the career so much and want to still have an impact on future leaders in law enforcement.
One of the things that we have seen over the last several years is a reduction in standards for police recruits, especially when it comes to physical fitness. Talk about, because when you and I started, I started in the early 80s, and you had to be an athlete to even pass the testing and things like that. And we've really gotten away from that in a lot of agencies in this country. Talk about why physical fitness is so important to police officers.
Yes, when we start recruiting, because we have basically information meetings, people who are interested in the job and coming into the academy, I tell them, and anybody else who asks me, there's only 2 things you have control over when you're getting ready to go into a career in law enforcement. That is your physical fitness, number 1, and your attitude. Your job history is what it is. Your financial status is what it is. Your school history is what it is. There's nothing you can do about that now. But you can control your physical fitness and you can control your attitude. And that's what's going to carry you a long ways in this career. Because the physical fitness I found for myself keeps my mind clear, makes me feel confident in my abilities to go out and do the job and protect myself, to protect the community and protect my partners, so that I can stay in any situation physically long enough for the troops to come and help arrive. And not only that, if you physically fit, I think it reduces the amount of stress. And if it reduces that amount of stress, ultimately you're going to end up with a longer retirement than you will have had for a career. So if you work 30 years, hopefully your retirement's going to be 30 plus because you kept yourself in that physical condition. Eventually becomes a lifestyle choice, and it just becomes a habit after a while, because it feels good to stay fit and stay healthy. And then I think, again, it helps your emotional state, it helps your fitness state, and kind of brings us back to why I got involved in the California Police Athletic Federation, and Police Olympics is what it originally called, because it brings in that fitness level, that emotional level of be able to compete and have camaraderie with fellow first responders in this event. So it was really a neat tie-in for me, having had a recreation degree and working in that field for 11 years, becoming a police officer. Now it's come full circle. I'm kind of doing both of those things with the police and fire games, putting together athletic events and related to law enforcement. Good stuff.
Let's talk about the police and fire games now. Police Olympics we used to call it, and I had when I was on the job, I had several of my officers were very involved in that. My husband was involved in the senior police Olympics until he
Yeah.
ripped his pack off of his chest,
Ouch.
preparing for a bench press contest. But that was one of the most exciting things for us, was to see one of our brothers or sisters competing in some of those events. Tell people about that.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, I got involved in it probably in the late 90s when I first heard about Police Olympics. And there are so many events to get involved in. And once I got involved, it's kind of get hooked on it because it's just fun. I mean, after you get through high school and college and you were involved in any sports there, kind of there's nothing really left after that. But when we have these police Olympics that came into being back in 1967, Duke Nias, who was the originator of this, and a guy named Bob Burke. Duke was from San Diego PD and Bob was LAPD. And they just had a love for sports and a love for the competition and the camaraderie that it brought. And they instituted this event called the Police Olympics. And over the years, it's had different names and different titles, but it's still really the same great organization that is interested in promoting sports. And along with those sports, we're creating camaraderie, we're creating comradeship and competition for athletes involved in firefighters or police officers and other types of first responders like paramedics and emergency medical technicians, things like that. And it's really just a fun way to stay fit. Kind of gives you a goal to set your sights on. And so you train throughout the year to keep your fitness level up, not only for the job, but for these competitions. And it's a really kind of a different type of competition. When you get there, it's more of a type of a friendly get together. I mean, you get together and you're meeting people from all over the country, and in some cases all over the world, because we have two different events that we coordinate under the banner of CPAF, United States Police and Fire Championships, which happens every year, the World Police and Fire Games, which happens every other year at some location in the world. And it's just a way for all of us first responders to get together, meet people who are doing the same thing you're doing, across the Atlantic in Europe or Asia or African continent or South American continent. It's just super exciting, fun. I've made friends that I started doing the World Games back in 2001, where it was held in Indianapolis, Indiana. And that happens to be the first games our president, Jim King, was really heavily involved in creating those games. And once I did that, I was hooked on that World Games activity. And, I've been involved in it ever since. And now to the point where I'm a director and vice president of the organization and trying to help this continue to move on and bring in this great activity to as many people as we can throughout the world.
And I think that's so important throughout the world. This is an international situation. I think that's one of the most exciting things about it is
Exactly.
is that you have athletes, first responder athletes from around the world.
Yeah, it's typically we'll end up at a World Games with from at least over 70 different countries. I mean, we're talking about we get police and fire from Mongolia, right? Real heavy athletes coming from the Indian continent. We get them from all over Europe, all over South America. Canada's really heavily uh, uh, instituted. And a lot of our board of directors are also from around the world. We have from United Kingdom. We've got, well, actually in Ireland, I guess Belfast is where one of our directors from. We have a couple from Australia. We have uh, one from Spain, several from the United States, but all over the United States. Because initially this all started in California, and then over the years it spread. And of course, it didn't include firefighters at the beginning, but now it's real heavily influenced by our president's a firefighter from Indianapolis, and one of our other board of directors, a firefighter from Fairfax County in Virginia. So it's really a great experience to be able to get to know these people and be like-minded and try to bring all this together through our hosts, which is going to be in Birmingham, Alabama in 2025, right? So late June into the July 4th week is when our next World Games will take place in Birmingham. All right, and their previous games, which happened 2 years ago, in 2023 was in Winnipeg, Canada. And then 2 years from Birmingham, it's going to be in Perth, Australia. So we're going to Western Australia, who will be hosting the games in 2027. That'll be super exciting. It'll be the third time the games have been held in Australia.
And it's not just, running and weightlifting and stuff like that. You have so many diverse sports, right? Talk about some of those.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the latest, hottest games are like pickleball, which has really grown exponentially.
Everyone our age plays pickleball,
exactly.
right?
It's really turned into a really great event. The combat sports are still very heavy. We still have boxing. We still have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, karate, taekwondo, judo. Those are still very popular. But Birmingham's actually going to institute a chess. This is a kind of an introductory sport that we've never really had before, but they're going to try out chess. We have darts. We've got cornhole, basically beanbag toss, which is really highly competitive. And it's really highly competitive. It's a great sport, really fun to watch. It's really, really, really a neat sport. So there's all kinds of interesting things that are over and above, the normal athletics like swimming and track and field and, the Olympic powerlifting sports. But we do have things like Dragon Boat. It's a team rowing event, basically, it's on water I think there's like 12 athletes that are on a boat for rowing, those kind of things. Ultimate Firefighting, we have some sport specific events for firefighters that really involve some really physically demanding events that require the types of things they do as on the job, putting hoses together, using their axes to move certain things or break certain things, and running upstairs and all their equipment, including their masks. So there's some really cool events that are specific for firefighters. And then there's also more specific to law enforcement types of things where there's long bore and short bore, rifle, shotgun events like skeet, trap, those kind of things. And then also a lot of pistol events, although there are quite a few firefighters that are getting involved in those firearms events as well. But there's some really cool things. Some of the other unique things I think that are going to happen at Birmingham is a contest for dog handlers. So like bomb dogs and narcotics dogs. So it can be a competition for those athletes to have their dog involved as well. And that's really kind of a cool sport for people to come and watch as well, the spectators. So we're looking forward to this in Birmingham, Alabama. And people think Birmingham, why would you go to Birmingham? But what we do is we have a bid process. These people who see this event, it usually starts with some athlete that came and thought, man, this is cool. I think that we should do this in Winnipeg, or I think we ought to do this in Indianapolis. And so they get their bid team together and they get the buy-in from local government officials and private sponsors, and eventually will make a bid similar to the Olympics. What we've been told, what I understand, our World Games is the third largest amateur athletic event in the world behind the Olympics, the Summer Olympics, and the Winter Olympics. We're bigger than anybody else as far as the number of athletes, the number of sports, and the things we do. So it has a really phenomenal economic impact in the cities that host it. And I think that's one of the things that city governments and private entities see this. They see, okay, you're going to bring 8 to 10,000 athletes here along with their families and get involved in all these great fun events and sports. That's a part of the allure because back in the day, nothing against Indianapolis, Indiana, but I said, why would I ever go there unless I was going to go see the 500 race? But once my wife and I went, we got involved in that and saw all the cool things that are in and around Indianapolis. This is really a cool city. It's kind of the same thing with Birmingham, because they put in a bid and we go through the bid process and they show us the venues that they have available, which are phenomenal, and the nightlife and different activities that are in and around Birmingham that I think people all over the world would be really interested in seeing. It's a cool city. Our registration is actually probably going to be opening within a week here, just the next few days. Their website is live. It's BHM WPAG 2025. You can go to that website, or cpaf.org is our other website that you can easily get to our annual event, USPFC, or biannual event, WPFG, by that website. And you can go look, the entry book is already there. It tells everything about which events are happening, and how the registration process is. And there's a lot of details in that registration book, because when people are traveling internationally and they're going to compete, like say in one of these firearms events, gee, how do I get a gun into the United States? How do I do that? And so all of those things are explained in our book in a lot of detail, all the accommodations, all the nightlife, different excursion things you can do. Because most people, when they do this, they'll bring their families, right? They're looking for other things to do with their family. And, the host usually provides a lot of really neat events. And also they'll add a lot of things about what to do in and around Birmingham and how to have a good time there and maybe expand your trip beyond just your competition. So we're really excited about Birmingham and seeing, how well they're going to do host this games.
And I think this is such a great opportunity for American law enforcement to
Yes.
kind of, show off our stuff, show off our nation. And because we really are into 2025 entering, we're hopeful, a new era of positivity toward the American law
Yes.
enforcement officer.
Yeah,
And this is a
absolutely.
great way to kick it off, don't you think?
I absolutely. It is kind of interesting because there's a lot of things that are maybe political that sometimes we have to be concerned about. And as a board, when we're, doing certain things and presenting our games, and we take into consideration things that might be happening locally or even worldwide. Like, for example, what's going on in Ukraine, right, with Russia. We basically follow the same principles as the Olympic organizing committees about, okay, Russian athletes can't come as a Russian team. The individual athletes can come, they're just independent. The same thing with, I think it's Georgia over there, one of those other supporting countries of Russia. But that's just kind of one of those things we politically sensitive, trying to people, because it's still difficult for some countries to get a visa to come here. India, Pakistan, they have difficult times, not more so much with us, but with their own country, them trying to get visas to come. And that's another thing that the hosts really have to get involved in. Is there's a lot of intricacies. Some of these nations actually need invitation letters. Okay, you say you want to go to the police and fire games in the United States of America, you need an invitation letter. So we have to sometimes produce those things. Yes, you are invited to come. A lot of countries like Pakistan, some of those Mid-Eastern countries, similar kind of thing. So again, we'll get anywhere from, depending on the year, anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 athletes. Our biggest one most recently was probably in Fairfax, Virginia. And usually we get a real big turnout in games that are held in the United States. just because we get a phenomenal number of U.S. athletes that come. And typically the host country usually has the most athletes that attend a games. Same when we were in the Netherlands a few years ago, they had the most. And those countries are in and around, that's in European country. So we're looking forward to it in Birmingham, and it's going to be phenomenal. And I think, again, they have a good tradition, really a strong tradition of supporting law enforcement and firefighters in the South. And the people really do support the people in the South. And it kind of brings a topic to mind that just to throw in that I think, at least in my own personal experience and here at the academy that I work at, the people in general still really supportive of law enforcement and firefighters. Absolutely love them.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. Dave, tell us again where people can find out about the games.
Probably the easiest way to do it is go to our website, with cpaf.org, cpaf.org. And on that website, it'll take you to different links where you can go to the United States Police and Fire Championships, which will be coming up in San Diego the last week of May, first week of June. Similar type of events, just a little bit smaller scale. We'll end up with about 3,000 athletes at that games. Then it'll take you to the World Games, where you can see how to register and look at what you can do in Birmingham, Alabama, the last week of June, first week of July. The registration book is there. Registration will be opening soon. So cpaf.org is the best way to go to find out everything you need to know about how do I get involved in the competition? How do I start doing these things?
That's awesome. I'll tell you, Dave, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us today and talking about all the things that you guys offer. And if you'd like more information about the National Police Association, visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Every day, the brave men and women of law enforcement put their lives on the line to keep us safe. But they need our help to continue their mission. Activist politicians, progressive prosecutors, the ACLU, and the rest of the anti-police forces receive millions in donations from extremist pro-criminal elements like George Soros and woke corporations. The National Police Association is fighting them in courts around the country, including the United States Supreme Court, defending officers who are being attacked for doing their jobs. Additionally, the National Police Association works year-round to pass tough-on-crime legislation to put and keep criminals behind bars. Consider going to nationalpolice.org and donating to keep us in the fight. Together we can win. That is nationalpolice.org.